In this lecture, we're going to be looking at some basic operations you can do on the data in your C++ program. And we are going to be specifically looking at addition, subtraction, dividing numbers, the modulus operator, and multiplying stuff. We have seen addition before. Here we have a simple example. We have a variable called sum, and we are initializing it with two numbers that we are adding up, number 1 and number 2. This is something you can do in your C++ program. You can also do some other things. For example, we have another one called other sum, and we are adding up some other numbers, and we are going to collect the result into this other sum variable, and we're going to print these things out so that you can see them on your command prompt. This is how you can do addition, and we're going to have a chance to play with this in Visual Studio Code in a minute. We can also do subtraction. We can take a number and do minus another number like we are doing here. We're going to store the result in this diff variable, and we can do some other things. And down here you see another example in other diff here. We're going to subtract numbers and store the result in other diff. And we are also going to print this out. You can also multiply stuff. This is how you can do this. You use this operator here. It is the star operator. And this is an operator that many programming languages use to do multiplication. You should get familiar with this. And again, we print out the result so that you can see that this is actually working. We can also do division. Division for integers is a little tricky if you are seeing this for the first time. If we take, for example, 31 and divide that by 10, we're not going to get fractional numbers. C++ is going to try and figure out how many times it can fit 10 in 31. And we are visualizing this here. So in 31, we can only fit 10 3 times. So the result of 31 is going to be 3. This is the meaning here. Okay, with integer division, you're not going to be getting fractional numbers. This is something you should really understand. We have another operator that is called modulus operator. And this operator is represented by this percentage symbol that we are doing here. And the result of this operation here is going to be what remains after you have done the division of 31 and 10. And here the result is going to be 1. And you might be wondering why this is useful. It is going to be useful in many applications. And I think we're going to have a chance to play with this later in the course. But right now, you just need to be aware of this operation and what it does. Okay, these are the operations we're going to be learning about and playing with in this lecture. Let's head to Visual Studio Code and actually play with this. Okay, here we are in our working folder for this chapter. You see that I have prepared all the lectures we're going to do in this chapter. And I have my C++ 20 template project in place. I am going to do what we have been doing all along. So I am going to take these files and put them in the current lecture, which is basic operations. And I am going to paste those in. And I am going to open this folder in Visual Studio Code, so let's do that pretty quick. We are going to close the welcome screen here, and we're going to open our main CPP file, and we're going to remove things we don't need here. The first thing we want to play with is addition, so we're going to say that, and we're going to declare two int variables. We're going to call this number 1, and we're going to put in a 2, for example, and we're going to do a number 2. And we're going to put in a 7. Why not? And what we can do, we can say result equals number 1 plus number 2. And we're going to store the result of this operation in the result variable here. So what we can do is say stdcout, and we're going to print the result. We can try and compile this and see the result. Let's open our terminal here. And we're going to build with GCC as we always do. The build is going to go through, and if we run rooster here, we're going to see that the result of our operation is 9. So this is how you can do addition. You can also do subtraction, and here we need to declare a new variable. We're going to store the result in our result variable here. So what we're going to do here is say subtraction, and we're going to say result equals, for example, let's take number 2 minus number 1. This is the operation we want to do. This is number 2. What we are going to be storing in this result here is going to be a 5 because we are taking 7 and subtracting 2. I hope this makes sense. So if we grab this line here and paste it in here so that we save on some typing time and try to build again, we're going to run the build task with GCC and we're going to run rooster again. It is going to say result is 5 because we are taking 7 minus 2 here. The result is going to be 5. We can also do a subtraction operation that is going to result in a negative number. So for example, we can say result equals number 1 minus number 2. And this is going to give us a negative number because 2 minus 7 is going to be minus 5. So we're going to print that here. I'm going to paste this in because I still have this on my clipboard. If I build with GCC and run my program, we're going to get minus 5 as a result of this operation here. This is how you can do subtraction. We can also do multiplication. So let's go down here and say that. And we're going to say result equals number 1 multiplied by number 2. And this is the operator we use to do multiplication in programming languages. We're going to put in our print statement here and we're going to build with GCC. And if we run rooster now, we're going to get 14 because we are taking 2 and multiplying that with 7. This is how you can do multiplication. So what happens if you take 7 and divide that with 2? Try to give this a guess based on what we saw in the slides. We're going to go down here and do division, and we're going to say result equals number 2 divided by number 1, and we're going to try and print this out. If we build this, the build is going to go through, and if we run this, we're going to see that result is 3. So to really make sense of this, let's look at these numbers. We are taking number 2 and dividing that with number 1. So it is 7 divided by 2. And because we can't store fractional numbers in an integer, the fractional part is going to be basically chopped off. And we're going to store a 3 because 2 can fit in 7 only 3 times. I really hope this makes sense. The last operation we're going to look at is modulus, and it is a way to capture the remainder of a division operation. So we're going to do result to play with this, and we're going to say number 2, and we're going to say modulus using the percentage operator here, and we're going to say number 1, and we're going to print the result of this, and take a look at this here and try to guess what we're going to be doing. What we're doing here is really 7 modulus 2. And we're going to take 7, divide this by 2, and the remainder of that is going to be 1, and that's what we're going to store in this result variable here. And if we print that, we expect to get a 1 here. This is what modulus does. Let's build and build with GCC. The build is going to go through. If we run rooster here, we're going to get a 1. Let's do what we used in the slides so that this really makes sense. We're going to go down here and do equals 31 modulus 10. This is what we used in the slides. So we're going to print the result here. And here we are really asking what is going to be the remainder if we take 31 and divide that by 10. And that remainder is going to be stored in this result variable. So here we're also going to get a 1. So let's build with GCC and we're going to run the program, and we are also going to get a 1 down here. Again, the modulus operator can be hard to understand for beginners, but it is really capturing the remainder of the division. Again, we can see that here. We are asking how many times can 10 fit in 31? And we visualize this here. It can only fit in 3 times. And the remainder is going to be this red thing you see here. It's going to be 1. And when we do a modulus operation here, we are interested in that remainder. And that's what we're going to be storing in whatever variable that is capturing the result of this modulus operation. And that's what we basically have here. And this is really all we set out to do in this lecture. Now, I hope you have a good understanding of these operations you can do on integers. We have used integers here, but you can really do these operations on numbers except for the modulus operator, which is really going to make sense for integral types. So you can't really do modulus on floating points or fractional numbers. That's not going to make any sense at all. We're going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to learn about precedence and associativity, a very important concepts for your operations in your C++ programs.